I have a first question for you, Sergio, which is, what, in your opinion, has been the global impact of COVID on entrepreneurship and small and medium-sized enterprises?
Has been dramatic. It has been the real black swan that suddenly struck and hit particularly SMEs, because SMEs are always short in cash flow. They have usually 2, 3, 4 weeks maximum of resilience in the cash flow. And therefore, when it's 2, 3 weeks, they can resist. 2, 3 months, they cannot. And in most countries, in most cases, the lockdown has impacted for months, not weeks. So that is the first thing. But more profoundly, this lockdown has changed the mindset of entrepreneurs, small enterprises, in the sense that there has been a new, different perception of the role of the state. Nobody says that the state has not to be melted with the economy. Everybody has started to call for government intervention. And in that sense, it's a very different relationship has been established between enterprises and government. Also, a new view on globalization and China. Suddenly the Europeans and Americans discovered that all production of individual protective devices was shifted to China and other Asian countries, that they were disarmed. They had no production to defend, to protect themselves. That was a shock again, and put into question the process of globalization that has delocalized massively production outside Europe and the United States, namely.
Now, Sergio, if I may, you referred to an important point here, which is that there seems to be a change of mindset vis-a-vis the role of government. We have new lenses now on a more active role of the state intervening and supporting companies and small and medium-sized enterprises.
Yes.
Most countries have not hesitated to provide support. Now, a question for you is how to ensure that governments are not going overboard here, in the sense of just providing money to all enterprises. There's been issues about that, for example, in the United States, where it's not necessarily the companies that need the money the most that get that support. So the question is, how do you ensure that you're selecting the right firms for this support, and how do you ensure that there's some kind of a time frame to stop the support at some point, because you just can't you can't continue to support enterprises which are not competitive?
Well, Anthony, in a case of emergency, there is no question of cherry picking. You cannot select who to help and who not to help. You have to help across the board, because it's a proper role of the state to deploy its balance sheet to protect the citizens and the economy against the shocks that the private sector is not responsible for and cannot absorb. Therefore, I think that in such a situation, the state, even if somebody abuses of the state coverage, as it has been, it's always the case. Everybody must be covered and protected, because if the state does not intervene massively and swiftly, quickly, then the risk is that the scares will last very long, and you will find yourself with the country with a lower employment, a lower capacity, and more social distress and political upheaval. So that is why you cannot in the emergency. It's like a war. You can't select. You have to protect everybody as massively as you can and go into huge debt.
So Sergio, this is true in the very short term, right? Over a period of 3 to 6 months. But then we can consider there's a second phase. There's the phase where you're looking to recover, which would be 6 months to 1 year from now. Or you're looking projecting into 2021. So question to you is, one, which states do you think have been most effective in their short-term response to small and medium-sized enterprises? What are the policies which you would highlight as the best practices? And then the second question is, what policies do you see as necessary in the more medium term here for recovery?
Well, for all business, it is essential to cover the operating expenses during the crisis. Europe and the United States have channeled hundreds of billions of dollars quickly. Well, US quicker maybe, but also the Europe have the EU and individual states provided a lot of support immediately. Who have been the most innovative in this response, because a lot of responses were drawn from past experience, like tax deferrals and things like that, Kurzarbeit. But the paycheck protection program in the United States seems to me is the most innovative, because the first place they have been able to disburse so far $520 billion that have reached 51 million American workers out of 59 million American workers in SMEs. So 85% of American workers in SMEs. So it has been very effective in the sense that if 75% is spent on salaries, the loan becomes a grant, a gift. So in that sense, the debate loan grants have been incorporated in one. Also, the UK has been innovative when decided to do away with demand for personal guarantees on loan up to $250,000. £50,000. And the Germans have been innovative because they created a fund of 25 billion euros just for the months of June, August 2020 to help firms in the industry that has most hit from crisis, tourism and travel, and particularly the hotel and hospitality. Plus, they have done what governments are always reluctant to do. They have significantly lowered standard VAT from 19 to 16%, and the lower VAT from 7 to 5%. And that has been a strong boost to internal consumption. So
this is Germany you're talking about.
Germany, yes. So this US, UK, and Germany have provided new innovative responses that have caught my attention and appreciation.
Very good. Now, as you know, Sergio, through all your work you've done in your career at the OECD, namely, the informal economy is always critical for SMEs, especially in developing markets, but also in non-developing markets as well. Do you see an opportunity here to for reforms related to the informal economy? Where do you see a link between the COVID response and the informal economy, which can be as much as 50% of some economies in the world?
Well, this is the silver lining of the crisis, that for years we have been trying to facilitate the surfacing of the informal economy and to promote the digitalization with a lot of difficulties. Suddenly, thanks to the coronavirus, everybody went digital. Everybody. And therefore, that is something that may facilitate the formalization, the emergence, the surfacing of many informal enterprises, and to make the world, the economy of the world more transparent. Right. I think that it's a positive aspect, result from the coronavirus.
And it's fair to say, if you access government grants and loans, you need to be formal, right? I mean,
absolutely.
So this is an incentive in itself, right?
A strong one.
Yes. You're based in Rome right now. You know Italy extremely well. You're Italian. Any comments on some useful and interesting responses on the Italian front on the SME policy front? Well,
the Italian government has been the first in the Western world to be hit by this pandemic. It was an sudden, unknown phenomenon, and I think responded pretty well. The population has been responded very seriously to the lockdown, with a lot of discipline that surprised the Italians themselves to find themselves. So fear make people disciplined, we could say, and the government has been able to deploy a wide array of of measures. The stumbling block, the problem came from the banks. Banks responded slowly, and it showed the fact that Italy does not have a national bank devoted to SMEs. For instance, France that has BPI France, or Germany with the Kreditanstalt für Wiederaufbau. The state had their own arms, or the US Small Business Administration in America. But in the UK, with the British Business Bank has been slow and very incapable to review the loan making process by commercial banks. And in Italy, some banks have responded very slowly, others better, but that has shown that government should have their own instrument to react and not be obliged to rely on commercial banks when they want to intervene into the economy.
Interesting. Turning to Asia, do you have, Asia, of course, Hong Kong, Singapore, South Korea, parts of China also were highlighted as being quite effective in their response, at least on the health side. On the economic front, do you see anything particular that stands out from Asia that you'd want to highlight related to SMEs?
Well, the situation in Asia is still, from the health point of view, is still very uncertain. There are still lockdowns in South Korea. In Singapore, there are new waves. In economic terms, they tried to reopen as quickly as probably Japan reacted better in these circumstances, because Japan never closed down, never had a lockdown problem, and they had their economic activity still going on. And I think in that sense, probably in Asia, Japan is the country that reacted better, because they managed to keep under control the pandemics, and at the same time to continue to keep the economy running.
Yeah, one of the things we say in SME policy, in simple terms, you can say you're defensive or you're offensive. And it seems several Asian countries were quite offensive in their policy, in the sense of South Korea and Japan providing loans to SMEs specifically targeted at moving up the chain on technology. So actually investing in digital and basically creating the capabilities to continue to operate, which seemed interesting from my perspective.
Yeah, but I think that loans are not enough. You have to go to grants, because particularly when you are particularly affected in your cash flow, you can't because loans, then when the situation improves, you will find the issue of rising interest rates. It's something that could keep the economy and SMEs struggling. Okay. So that's why I think that we should, for the also for the immediate life survival strategy, provide some grants, and for the longer term, you have to move to other policies. The policy is that government should move towards equity, to create a national equity fund to take equity in SMEs, because if you provide some equity, you strengthen immediately the balance sheet of the SMEs. You help them to recover more quickly, and it's a healthier approach that may have also a return. We have seen for big companies when Obama was helping General Motors or AIG or Chrysler, then recuperated the money with a nice profit. So now it's the moment to apply that model, taking equity to support SMEs by creating a national equity fund.
Okay. Okay. Clear. Thank you, Sergio. Very insightful set of comments on the response to SMEs and supporting SMEs in the context of COVID. The orientation towards a massive government response, no cherry picking, but really more oriented towards speed of response and size of response to SMEs. In terms of innovative countries highlighted, Germany, the United Kingdom, and some aspects of what the United States has done as well. And in terms of more innovative directions, taking equity in SMEs coming from government, and considering having dedicated banks to SMEs so as not to slow down, if you want, the responses in a crisis situation like this. Very good. So thank you again for your contributions and your insight here, Sergio.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.